All right, y'all. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the pros of working in tech sales. Like most people, I didn't really study sales in college, and I wasn't really part of my plan graduating university. I sort of stumbled into sales trying to start my own consulting business coming out of college. But I've been extremely grateful. I don't plan on looking back. I've learned a ton about myself. I've learned a ton of skills. And I've also earned a lot of money along the way. So without further ado, let's dive into the pros of working in software sales. All right, so the first pro is high earning potential. Now, this goes without saying, in software sales, you have an extremely high ceiling for how much you can make in a year. Typically the top 0.5% or the top 15 sales reps at any company make over $1 million, or some of the most highly paid employees at that organization. My first year in software sales, I made about 75 to 80K as an SDR. The year prior to that, when I was working in a lab as a research assistant, I was making about 35 to 40K. And that 75 to 80K was with no prior experience, just getting my first role in the tech sales space. But I think the important thing about software sales is not how much money you make, but actually how you make the money. It's not the what, but the how. So let's dive a little bit more into what I mean by that. So if y'all follow Naval Ravikant, he'll talk a lot more about leverage and inputs versus outputs. Sales as a career, your inputs don't necessarily always match your outputs. So if I can give you an example, a personal example, when I was working as a research assistant, I was getting paid roughly about $15 an hour or so for 40 hours a week. So if I worked 40 hours, I'd get $15 an hour. You do the math. Now, every hour over the 40 hours, I'd get paid $22.50. So I'd get basically time and a half for overtime. So if you think about how I can increase my earning potential doing that role, it's very much related to putting in more hours or more inputs, and the outputs equals more dollars. Now, in sales, it's a little bit different because the largest deal I ever closed took me about 8 weeks, and I've closed deals of about $2,000 to $3,000 or like $10,000 to $15,000 that took me about 6 months to close. So your inputs, or the effort that you put in, does not always match your outputs. So as I've gotten better at selling, I've become more leveraged for my time. I've understood how to use my resources and my account team more effectively. And so now my inputs have a much greater output, or much greater leverage in increasing my revenue or my output. So that's really, I think, why sales has such a great, high ceiling when it comes to earning. In a lot of ways, it comes down to that 80-20 rule, right? Where 80% of your revenue comes from about 20% of the activities that you do. And as I've gotten through my software sales career, I've gotten to work harder, but I've also gotten to work smarter and really understanding how I can use my new skill set and my resources to maximize my revenue. Number 2 for me is transferable skills. Everyone is in the business of selling, whether you're, convincing someone to go on a date with you, getting your friend to do you a favor, starting your own business, for example. For me, my goal long-term is to start my own business, become the CEO of my own company. And I felt like as an early stage CEO, the best CEOs are closest to their customers. They're closest to the point of sale, and they really understand how to ask good questions, to understand what are the needs of their customers, of their ICP, what is their customers or prospects really trying to solve for. And really, if you think about sales, like that's really what it comes down to. Sales isn't all about talking and pitching. It's about asking good questions. It's about listening and coming with an opinion or a recommendation on how a prospect can solve for whatever they're trying to solve for with your solution. Sales is as close to starting your own business as possible. The way I like to think about it is I'm almost like a franchisee owner, where I don't have to build the product from scratch, but I'm given a product, a list of companies, and a laptop, and I'm basically told to go in and sell to that territory and generate revenue. So from my perspective, it's as close to being an entrepreneur without actually having to take that risk and going out there and starting your own business and starting your own venture. And as you start to have more sales conversations, you start to see that your business acumen, like your general understanding of how a business is operated, goes to the roof, because you get to talk to business owners or executives in different industries. And if you're going through different companies in your career, you're also selling different products to different personas within those organizations. So just your general business acumen and your industry knowledge just goes to the roof when you're in sales. Now, outside of a professional setting, to sell is to listen. So I've become a much better listener, both of my friends, my girlfriend, my family, through sitting with customers and prospects for hours, getting good, becoming curious about what they're trying to solve for, and really sitting back and not talking about myself, but actually listening about what's important to them and understanding where they're coming from. To sell is also ask really good questions. It's definitely improved my relationships and my friendships, allowed me to navigate social interactions way better because I'm way more curious about other people now. I'm able to make the conversation about them, really get them to open up to me. And really that comes from hours of being interested in a prospect's business and asking good discovery questions. The third and final point I want to make is career growth and job security. Now, this one might seem a little interesting given the current economy. We've got mass layoffs in tech, and sales is definitely getting impacted by it. But I feel like this was something that I really wanted to talk about. Now, in sales, you get to see young people in their 20s, mid-20s, early 30s, getting promoted year after year because of overachievement. Sales isn't like a regular career. It's like an accelerated version of a normal career. You get to really see how a meritocracy can help someone's career just skyrocket and just go through the roof, because if you do well in your role, you will continue to get promoted over and over and over and over again. It's awesome to see people who are very young, mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, leading sales teams, talking to executives of Fortune 500 companies, making, 200, 300K a year. And I think you can only really get that kind of career trajectory and growth when you're working in tech and when you're working in sales, because sales really rewards overachievement and good performance. Now, when we talk about job security, if you're a bad sales rep, you will 100% get fired. Like, sales, above all else, will fire you for bad performance. There's like no questions asked about that. There's really not a lot of leeway when it comes to it. Like a number, your quota is a quota. And so you will get fired if you're a bad sales rep. But if you're a good sales rep and people like working with you, you will always have a job in sales, because companies have two things. They've got cost centers, which cost a company money to run, and they've got revenue generating parts of the business, which bring in revenue. And sales is always a revenue generator for a business. And so if you are good at selling, you will always be an asset to a company. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to start posting 2 videos a week on this channel. But outside that, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.